Hello and welcome everyone. We are doing a objective tier list based on 300 superstars. Some legends slipped in there, and it's going to be what they did as a professional. In-ring work, as you may call it, move set isn't necessarily going to be the end-all be-all, but rather their impact on the wrestling industry. And we're going to start with Adam Cole, which I think is a tough one. And I think you could argue he is over to mid card. Historically, though, I do think in terms of being, I do think a lot of people would find him to be over, and especially his work prior to coming to NXT, but what he was able to do in NXT as well. Aiden English, like him or love him, I do feel like historically, I don't know if you could say that. I mean, he was not someone who was as over as possible. AJ Styles, at least superstar. I want to say legend. We're probably gonna keep him there and see where everyone else kind of comes. He was certainly a draw. I think he is on the level of superstar because he has been in some very high profile feuds and matches. His style is iconic. He is phenomenal, no doubt about it. I really do like AJ Styles, and I do think he has made an impact on wrestling. Akam, I know about him. I think he has more name value than Aiden English, though they are both not very. It's hard to say. He might slip down. We'll talk about that. Tozawa. Need I say more? Al Snow. I do think he technically in the ring was maybe better than these types of guys and has more name value. We'll put him in inconsistent. I mean, he was part of the job squad, so to speak, but we'll leave it at that. Maybe discuss it if we need to later down the line. Albert was never really. He was never pushed to the fullest of his extent in the WWF. He did some cool things in Japan that I think elevates him, but I'm not sure if we could say he was mid-card, because I think if you asked a lot of people about Albert, they would have no idea about what he did in Japan, and I don't know if he has the staying power in Japan for that to fully push him up to mid-card. And now, look, we're not saying where they were booked in their time period. We're saying historically. Like, if this was a 300-man roster, what are we looking at? Alberto Del Rio, he is the... I get it. He was the man in Mexico and even won titles in the WWE. I think, though, you have to say he was inconsistent, and that's mostly out of the ring type of stuff, where he could have been in the upper half, without a doubt, into drawing territory, but because of his personal life, it really screwed over what he could have become. Aleister Black, I'm going to say mid-card. And I do think there's a lot of information that I am missing, maybe in terms of Aleister Black, to where people could say he should be higher. I think a lot of people like his style, but it's hard to put him in terms of over based on what I know about him. Alex Riley, I'm not super familiar. Alexander Wolf, again, I am not super familiar either. I know he's a tag wrestler. There's a lot of these newer guys, I can't really put them where maybe if you're a big fan of them, you would say, oh man, they have to go somewhere. Big Daddy V is another inconsistent guy. He was getting a push in the mid-90s and had that squelched because of his match with The Undertaker, where he broke his orbital bone. Andrade, and this is, I might be misinformed in terms of this. I think he has done some stuff in other promotions that has got him over a little bit more. Probably didn't get quite the push that people think he deserved in the WWE. I am not super tuned in and privy to this, though I've only heard good things about him. Chase, another person I don't know. Andre the Giant is at least legendary, perhaps iconic. I think he could go anywhere, and the mythos of Andre would make him a huge draw. And if you had him in his prime on any roster, he could main event like that easily. Animal, he is at least a superstar, maybe in part of one of the most iconic tag teams of all time. And like AJ Styles, we're probably going to have to come back to that and discuss whether he needs to go into legendary. Arn Anderson, as part of the Four Horsemen, without a doubt a superstar. Great in ring, great promo, and in one of the hottest factions of all time. Austin Aries, another guy, inconsistent. I don't know if you can tell. Inconsistent is kind of like have some good aspects, but also whether it be in ring, whatever, personal life, it definitely gypped him, and he's even below. Alberto Del Rio is top of inconsistent because there was really a case that he could have been a top tier guy. Big Daddy V, sort of the same way. They had that potential. Austin Aries, a lot of people said his in-ring work would have allowed him to easily be a draw, and he did draw, but because of his personality, it kind of limited him. Austin Theory, I think, is someone who got over outside of the WWE, and they are trying to get over now. We'll put him in mid-card for right now, as I do think he is someone who could potentially have a big future. Sorry to be skipping through. I want to go through. I mean, Baron Corbin could maybe argue inconsistent. His downfall, or his come down after the push was. It was sad to see. Chuck Palumbo, another guy I have to put in jobber. Sorry, just as I see them. This guy, I'm not familiar with. Colin Delaney, Curtis Axel, another guy who unfortunately has to be in that mix from my recollection watching him. Chris Masters. This is a tough one. I would have to say, and I don't think it was any fault of his own. I think there was a lot of personal stories where he could have been like a Rick Rude type of guy and never quite got what he maybe should have been. We're going to go Chad Gable, and I think this is maybe showing some bias. I'm trying to be unbiased. Not sure how big of a draw he is in Mexico, but it seems like what he's doing now is certainly getting over in a way where he could be something. David Hart Smith, unfortunately, with a great pedigree. I think his indie work could maybe argue for inconsistent or mid-card. Was never used that way, at least on mainstream television. This is going to be crazy, guys. I'm not familiar enough with Carmelo Hayes to really know. Same with Cedric Alexander. Charlie Haas, I certainly do remember. Great in-ring worker, but would ultimately be someone to job. I do think, as far as technical proficiency goes, he needs to be a lot higher. Brody Clay, another guy who maybe could have got used, but again, I think would be a jobber in terms of historical success. Byron Saxton, only really know him as a commentator, and if I had to, I don't know his in-ring work, I would have to put him in the Who, because I don't know who he is as. Curtis Hawkins, another guy I'm familiar with, in-ring work, not very sure. Damian Sandow, just kind of got screwed. I'd have to put him at inconsistent. Could have been something great and was never, by no fault of his own, given a true push. Damian Priest, another guy, inconsistent. I know he's gotten some main event push currently, albeit spotty. Never someone that I watched a ton in the ring. I'm sure he's a great in-ring professional, but could be great. But in terms of historically, like the types of guys like Dusty, that would be someone who is at least legendary, perhaps iconic, a part of one of the most important rivalries in professional wrestling, that being the rivalry with Ric Flair, who of course is going to be another icon in my opinion. Now, could he slip down? Perhaps, but we'll get to that point when we get to it. Bam Bam Bigelow, he has to be at least mid-carder, and we're going to put Adam Cole mid-card. Bam Bam over. And I think his Japan stays absolutely solidify that. Bo Dallas, I do know him. Definitely was a jobber. And I apologize if I hurt anyone's feelings. I do think Big Show, even though Bam would be over, with Bam Bam definitely being used on the card higher. So I'm just trying to look at this, take into consideration what I know about their resume, and then in my mind, how would they best be used. Big E, I think his injury definitely, if he was in prime health, would be used as a mid-card tag team without a doubt. Billy Gunn, inconsistent. Put him right there. As an act with Road Dogg, get over for sure, talking, but in ring, they were never a great tag, in my opinion. Batista, he was someone who is certainly over, without a shadow of a doubt. Could even potentially be said to be a draw as a champion. I am a big fan of him. Big Boss Man, certainly someone who could be used in the mid-card and was used to great effect in the mid-card. Big Cass, inconsistent, has the look to be used. That tag team is not a classic tag team by any means. Bob Backlund is kind of seen as one of those champions who held it for a long time, has a lot of prestige, and I would say over, but maybe not a draw. If I were to use him, it would probably be in the mid-card or inconsistent, just because I wouldn't really know how to best use him. Bobby Fish, I know who he is. I think I would have to put him in inconsistent and above some of these guys. I think his work in ROH, you could argue to push him further, but on the mainstream, it went fairly well. I don't have a ton of knowledge about him. Darren Young, not super familiar with him. Dash Wilder, part of FTR. We will get to him. That's an interesting pick. But Bobby Lashley, someone who could be said as over for sure. And his peak, the peak of his powers, he was someone that, like as a kid, people were like, he is the bee's knees. Bobby Roode, tremendous presentation. Really like him, and I think he's a great talker. Did some great work in TNA as well. Booker T, definitely over. I think that is right. Bob Backlund, I think I'm giving him some historical disrespect, and I don't mean that at all, but Bronson Reed, I think he's going to continue to get more and more over as time goes on, and will show that he is able to be used as a main eventer currently. Braun Strowman could have been like Big Show in terms of like, hey, he's over and can pop some numbers on a main event, just inconsistent, and that's in terms of use. Bray Wyatt, I do think was over, RIP, and is a great character. Bret the Hitman Hart, he's a legend as far as I'm concerned. So is AJ. And I think these guys deserve to go there as well. We're going to keep him there. Could argue Iconic was the peak in the mid 90s. And we'll address this later. I have huge bias towards Bret Hart, so I'm trying not to overrank him. Davey Boy would be a great mid-card worker. He was definitely over, especially in his home country of England. And, I mean, well, we have to put him over Bronson Reed. Just feels wrong not to. And currently we'll put Bronson Reed. What we'll see in the future, I think, will solidify him as over. But we currently need to actually see that to put him there. Brock Lesnar, I think, was more over than Batista. Someone who is legitimate and someone who is legendary. Braun Breaker, we're going to put him just above Bronson Reed. Again, I think what these two are going to do in the next few years will solidify them to where it's only upward trajectory for them, but what they've proven so far will undoubtedly solidify them as a mid-carder. Historically, the terminology on this term list is like, yeah, I know they're not being used as a mid-carder currently, but in terms historically, how you would put them. Bruno Sammartino, iconic without a shadow of a doubt, held the title multiple times for over a year, was the guy for the WWF and built something to where it could launch into an international phenomenon. And you might even be able to put him above Andre. And it's a very tight race, and I would have to look at statistics to be able to put it. Andre was an attraction without the title. Bruno was someone who was... They both could main event easily anywhere in the world, really. Bubba Ray Dudley, over as a tag act. Him and Devon, in my opinion. Buddy Rogers is amongst the Bret Harts. Was someone who was iconic. I read his book. Really drew in he maximized the use of television during the golden period of professional wrestling. Would be usurped by Bruno Sammartino, but that was due in part to a heart issue, in which kind of made the powers that be, Vince Sr., worried about the future of the WWF. Carlito could be, I think, someone that, like Chris Masters, had the gimmick, was decent enough in ring, was over during his time period, but someone that I'm not sure you'd be able to rely on more than some of the names that are going to come. Same with Cesaro, but it's almost opposite. Cesaro, great in-ring worker, could easily... God. Now this is where things get tough, because I'm looking at Big E, and I'm like, does he deserve to be above him? But I think even though Cesaro is a better in-ring worker than Big E, it is the presentation of that tag team and being a part of that trio that would allow him to be. Evan Bourne also, I'd have to put an inconsistent. I've seen him do some crazy work. Fandango, same. Funaki, not familiar enough to be able to accurately put him anywhere but jobber. Hornswoggle has to be jobber. Okay, let's go back. Chavo. Could be used as a mid-carder, as a tag act, as a singles act, would have to be opener or jobber. Jericho, definitely superstar as far as I'm concerned. Great in-ring work, great on the mic, multiple-time champion for a reason, has shown he can do it across decades. I do think these guys have something that would solidify them as like they would be a main eventer historically. And We're going to put Benoit in the draw. Lacked a certain something in terms of character, but could get away without it. Was so great in the ring. Objectively, one of the very best in the ring. But if you were to push him nowadays, I'm not sure he would be able to outdraw these people ahead of him. Christian, mid-carder to over, if he were to be a part of an act with Edge. CM Punk, easily a draw, easily a superstar. And I think you might even be able to argue that he's a legend. And I do feel comfortable putting him there. Cody Rhodes, I think what he has done has solidified himself as a superstar with the upward trajectory over the finale of his career will cement himself as a legend, in my opinion. Devon Dudley, as a part of an act with Bubba Ray Dudley, certainly going to go up there. Daniel Bryanson, I think, is a superstar. Yes. Yeah, that feels right. FTR, I'm not... Where did I put his tag? Oh, I don't think I put his tag mate. I think I just saw it. Let me double check. Not seeing his tag mate anywhere. Could put him mid-card. And I think super fans of the FTR are going to absolutely hate that. But I have to do it. El Toro, not sure. David Otungo, not very sure. Diamond Dallas Page. Over. Especially when you remember the late 90s WCW. People were really into DDP. Dean Ambrose being used near main eventer currently. Certainly someone who is over. I think people will dislike that he's below Chris Benoit and Batista. But I think they were on or near the top during a hotter time period. So maybe there's going to be... All right, where the hell was I? Dean Malenko, mid-card, undoubtedly. I'm coming at this with a new sense of confidence because, look, I'm going to be wrong in a lot of your eyes no matter what. I get that. But I'm looking at it as though it's my promotion based on how I remember these guys. Now, I know every single... You're going to say, I remember Carlito. I don't know. Alberto Del Rio, some of you guys are going to be like, oh, I love AAA, and I remember when he was amazing there, whatever, what have you. Or Charlie Haas. I'm going to actually... He's got to go above Fandango. And he's jobber. Evan Bourne, jobber too, but he's going to make him look good. We know that for sure. Demolition. Now, I'm going to go the OG Demolition. I mean, I guess I'll keep Crush with that too. But they are definitely like in the mix of the tag title picture. We're not gonna... No. Yes. Okay, and I think Dean Ambrose was the last one that I was at. I know you guys like him. I remember him when he was at the top, Shield, important, get all that. I'm just not incredibly impressed with like his body of work, and albeit, or I will say, I don't know much of his AEW to work, okay, which probably is playing a big role in that. Dexter Lumis, I've heard of him, and I felt like he's someone they could do something with, but I haven't seen enough of his in-ring work to actually be able to tell you. Same with him. Dolph, we're going to put him in the mid-card. And I know that is probably to a lot of the displeasure of you guys. Okay, there's Dash Wilder. I was looking for his tag partner. We'll have him come up later, I'm sure. I'm not going to try to find him. Ziggler, mid-carder, above Big E. I think he would be a good challenger for like a mid-card title for sure. Doink the Clown would be a jobber. He did some very good stuff. Actually, he's inconsistent, if anything. Because, like Matt Bourne specifically and his drug and alcohol problems. Dominic Mysterio, I think he's a tremendous heel right now. He would be over without a doubt. Domino, don't know. Drew Gulak. Drew McIntyre, he's over and near the top of over. I think he's a great presentation, has a lot of things going for him, would definitely be a good challenger for sure. But amongst the pantheon that we have with pro wrestling history, and this is a very good list, great tier list to whoever made this, doesn't include the Japanese guys, which is fine. It actually makes it a little bit easier to compare because it's apples to apples instead of apples to oranges, right? But we'll leave it at that. Earthquake, he is another guy who I'd put above him. Another like good monster challenger who could maybe main event one big event, then work his way down and then be a consistent challenger for a mid-card type of title. EC3, I think he has a good look, but not quite enough to be consistently in the mix. Guerrero, ooh boy, this is where he's so exciting. That feels right. He is a legend, undoubtedly. Tragically passed, but when he was hot, man, he left quite the mark. Edge, another guy. He's a superstar, man. In my opinion, just a great heel, great entertainment. He can make some great TV. Elias would be an interesting jobber to have on the team. Elijah Burke, in terms of a tag, and I did see JTG. They would be an interesting tag to have. Or I'm getting that wrong. No, Elijah Burke was his own. He wasn't with JTG. I'm forgetting who. He tragically passed away swimming in the ocean. Got caught in a riptide. Enzo Amore, again. He's a jobber you want to have on TV a lot, and just hope to God that he can continue to stay somewhat relevant through his promos while just getting like eaten alive, and try to the best of your ability to get him bump like a Spike Dudley and then talk the way that he talks. Epico, I am not familiar enough with him to give him anything about. I don't know enough about him. Eric Rowan, I think, is a good big guy jobber. Eric, I'm not familiar with that tag. Ezekiel Jackson, not familiar. Finley, good strong worker. Would love to have him like as a solid hand on the undercard, but can't put him much higher than that. Eric Young, will have him be a jobber. I think he was Shark Boy in TNA. Interesting gimmick, but again, not sure exactly what we can do with that. Finn Balor, solid mid-card guy. he was tremendous in Japan, and I need to learn more about that. So I'd probably have him top a mid card, or very damn near top, because he will have a great series of matches that I think would draw like cash. Freddie Blassie, both as a manager and a wrestler, was a draw wherever he went. He's definitely over, no doubt about that. Just to get people upset. Gangrel would be near the top of jobber. Johnny Gargano be a solid mid-card guy. George the Animal Steele, he did draw in his heyday. I don't know how that would travel well, though. Good gimmick, but I don't know how long that would last, so to speak. So I'm definitely being very mean to George the Animal Steele. Godfather, another interesting gimmick jobber. Goldberg, now look, he was hot for sure. He was over without a doubt. He is draw more than these guys. He would draw money. How consistently would matter upon how he was booked. Take a look at WCW. But these guys, I think, they didn't burn as bright, but they showed because they had more, okay, in terms of ability to talk, character, and having the fans in the palm of their hands without having to be booked a certain type of way to keep that going. Longer careers with, like, look at Daniel Bryan. His peak was not quite Goldberg's peak, but all of these guys had peaks that were pretty damn high where they were very beloved. Goldust, just a fucking solid mid-card guy, up and near the top of the mid-card, to be honest. These guys, too, I want to put, just because they would be used very, very well. Gorilla Monsoon, someone who main evented against Bruno Sammartino more than anyone else. I'm reading his biography right now. It's really damn good. He was the prototypical big man who could move and do some stuff. He's over for sure. I'm probably not even giving him enough credit. His matches were pretty innovative for their time. Grayson Waller, not familiar. Gunther feels like an absolute throwback. I think he deserves to be near Gorilla Monsoon. He's doing some great stuff nowadays. Jim Duggan can't be a jobber, but he's... I wouldn't put him in my mid-card, to be honest. Though, I think his Mid-South run, a lot of people who are familiar with him from Mid-South would probably say, I mean, what the hell are you doing? He is top of inconsistent. Harley Race, my goodness gracious. I mean, as a title holder and a title contender, he was the absolute man. He is a draw, no doubt about it. In fact, he is a superstar in my mind. Heidenreich, jobber, interesting jobber. Honky Tonk Man, inconsistent, definitely a character I wouldn't mind using, but I'm not sure how good in the ring he would be. And just like, he's interesting to have on the roster, but you cannot lean on him 100%. Hulk Hogan, I am going to make a huge argument. I think I think if you even adjust for inflation, is the biggest drawing wrestler that's going to be on this list. In terms of merchandise, in terms of pay-per-view, in terms of actual arena gates. He also was the one who made WWF national. It was through him as the figurehead. And then he also helped push the Attitude Era along Could the NWO have worked without him? Sure. But it definitely worked with him, which pushed WCW to new heights and also WWF. I don't know if there's any person who is or has their fingerprints as pronounced on two wrestling booms as Hulk Hogan. So he is the top guy for now. Hurricane Helms, great in-ring worker, great gimmick. Probably inconsistent, though he could easily just be a jobber. Similar situation with Erwin R. Shyster. Again, the War Raiders I'm not super familiar with. Jack Gallagher, from what I remember, just jobber. Jack Swagger, I was never impressed with at all. Jobber, for sure. Jake the Snake Roberts was effective in the ring and had a tongue that could sell tickets. No doubt about that. See, it's tough with Goldberg because if you use him right, he can be absolute money. With Jake the Snake Roberts, there's so many ways that you can use him. So I feel comfortable with that. James Ellsworth, absolute job guy. Jamie Noble, another guy, doesn't quite. I mean, he was interesting on TV in a time where it was jam-packed, but he was more of an opening act type of guy. And that's, I mean, now the roster is a lot better, so it's going to be tough for him. Jason Jordan, athletic, but I know I gave the benefit of the doubt. It's like, oh, if they weren't injured, like with Big E. But yeah, JBL, mid-card heel to contend for those titles. Jeff Hardy, definitely among their... in his prime was... no, he's definitely... I lost him for a second. Yeah, he is over. Jeff Jarrett, I think a solid mid-card guy. That feels right. Jerry Lawler, in his prime. I think we're going beyond draw. I think absolute superstar. Absolute superstar. And would be a top guy only to some of the very crazy best. And you know what, being objective, this is because my bias, I like these guys a ton. This feels more correct now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, now it feels very correct. It's tough with Brock. Although he's someone where it's like, oh my God, Brock is like, he is kind of in the same, he is an Andre of our time. Pause. Don't freak out. He's a special attraction. Okay, when he shows up, people are excited. So I feel like he has to be legendary. They were great. Absolute, just spectacular. Money drawn, though, that's where it gets very tough. Where it's like, okay, we're drawing gates because of these guys. You know what I'm saying? And even to the point, like with the faction, yeah, but Flair's a part of that faction. Yeah, that feels right. Jey Uso, I've heard great things about them as a tag team. I remember them. I think they've only gotten better. Jim Neidhart. I mean, if he's with Brett, yeah, for sure. Without Brett, that's where things get a little difficult. Jimmy Snuka, Superfly, easily mid-card guy. Yeah. Who's going to have some feuds that are absolute money feuds. Jimmy Wang Yang, I don't really remember him. Jimmy is also mid-card, but going to be higher up on the pecking order. Jinder Mahal. Yeah, I don't know enough about George the Animal Steel to be able to move him. Joey Mercury. John Cena. Easily inconsistent. No. I mean, he's a top guy. No doubt about that. In fact, probably fourth guy on there. Argument between Andre and Cena to be made. 17-time champ. They were pushing for that, sure. I mean, he was literally the top guy, but I don't know. I think anywhere Andre went, he was the big act. John Morrison, we can definitely do more with than his tag partner, Joey Mercury, but can't put him too up high. Justin Gabriel doesn't do much for me. Callisto doesn't do much for me. Kane, Karrion Kross, I don't know much about. I'm going to refrain from ranking him just because I'm only going to do a disservice by doing that. Kevin Thorne, Jobber, Great Khali, inconsistent. You could build a main event around him, and then you expose what he is, and that is just not a very he's sort of maybe a better presented Giant Gonzalez. No shade to him. But before we do Kane, Luthez is up or near the top. I mean, he was across decades. I read his book, Hooker. Amazing book. Highly, highly recommend. He is an icon for sure. Just take a look at the top right now after a lot of things have been adjusted. Kane is difficult. Because he's good enough in the ring to not be like exposed once you finally have to make the match. I don't know if he's ever going to get over to where it's like the feud with him and Taker, yeah. If you really build a special feud, but outside of Taker, it was always difficult to have investment in Kane. So I think mid-card is where you have to put him. Carl Anderson, I'm putting them in inconsistent. Cassius Ohno, tremendous in the ring. I don't know how much he's going to draw, though. Keith Lee, I think a lot of people thought he was tremendous. The drawing power, though, I don't know if it's there. Athletic, big man, freak athlete of a big man. Matt Stryker, definitely jobster. Kevin Nash was at the top, but didn't draw well. In WCW was in one of the tightest. I mean, he was always at or near the top, and he did draw money in WCW. So he's over. He's over to a large extent. He can draw money. God. But it was the angle, too. So I'm going to keep him at right there, over. Kevin Owens, tremendous in ring. I think is very easy to work feuds around. I think he's better than, yeah. That feels right. He is over. Killer Kowalski. Now, I know he worked at or near the top. I'm going to put him right there. Kofi Kingston as part of that team. Where the hell did I put Big E? Starting to get very, very crowded. There we go. Connor. Jobber. Kurt Angle. Worked very well at the top in a very crowded era. Definitely a draw. Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, how many people do I want to piss off? There you go. LA Knight, people really like him now, and he is older. People are hoping he gets his push. I don't know if he's going to get that or not. I think the fans are clamoring for it in such a way that they maybe have to. Definitely mid-card as of now, but I think he's going to show that he maybe should be. Now, Lance, look, on my card, he would be a mid-carder because he has such great work. In fact, I see I have Chavo up there. I think he fits right in with Chavo. We already have Jerry the King Lawler, don't we? Yeah, we have Jerry the King Lawler. So we're just going to put him here. Jerry Lawler's on here. Okay? Watch the whole video. Jerry Lawler, right there. It's only because... Oh, fuck. We'll put it right next to him. Just because otherwise... people will get upset, isn't it? Lex Luger did draw with the right dance partner. Mid-card guy, in my opinion. I think it would be fairly easy to like have meaningful feuds with him. Logan Paul, really impressive. I did not think he would be take off as much as he did. Yeah. Luke Gallows, where did I put Carl Anderson? Yep, there you go. Luke Harper, similar. R.I.P. Mark Henry. Man, he had it really rough early on in his career. But in the 2000s, I think he really started to get it together. Mojo Rawley. Marty Jannetty, inconsistent. Good in the ring, but hard to sell otherwise. Hardy's going to be up there with Jeff, but lower in the same tier. Yeah, it feels right so far. Foley, I mean, someone who's willing to literally put their body on the line, was over during such a crowded and hard time period. I think he's a draw. I legit do think that. Yeah. Mike Knox. The Miz. He main evented a WrestleMania, everybody. Montez Ford, don't know enough about him. Mr. Kennedy. One of the most interesting what ifs. He is, I think, what The Miz wants you to believe he is. Okay? Take that for whatever it is. I would have him in the mid card. Mr. Perfect. Yes. He's tremendous. He's over. No doubt about it. Big Show. Just trying to do some fine tuning. Yeah. Murphy. I can't tell you. Mustafa Ali. Remember the name, but go inconsistent. MVP was interesting. Whenever he was going mid 2000s. I liked him. Liked that character a lot. I think we could make room for him at the bottom of mid card. Neville. Shit, that's so tough. Yeah, inconsistent. I don't know if we could draw with him. Almost, I know people are a big fan of him currently. I don't know. I just know what I hear, and I don't know to be able to say one way or another. I have no idea where I'd put him. Seems like he could be something huge in the future, but I'm not sure. Otis, Jobber, Pat McAfee would be Jobber. Primo, I'm not sure. Pete Dunne. Consistent. I think it would be hard with his size. R-Truth. Maybe in his prime a bit higher. He's just fun to have on the card. Rene Dupree, another guy. It's like, what if? But I have to put him. Jobber. Razor. Where did I put Occam? Now, when they were in NXT, man, I really did think they were going to be a top tag team. And maybe I just missed where they were. Rich Swann, don't know enough about. Rick Boggs, don't know enough about. Ricochet. Because we put a bunch of guys who were just fun to have in the mid card. You guys are going to the top. Missing something is maybe the best way to put it. Great in-ring. Yeah, it's starting to feel stronger now. Owen. Man, was he... He is one of my favorites. Pretty much topped the mid-card. These guys, I mean, as the tag act, yeah, but you have to factor in as them, I guess. So I'm doing some. I mean, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt too. I don't know. Pat Patterson was over like Rover in San Francisco. And AWA, I'm reading the he's a draw. Maybe even a superstar. I will leave him at draw for now. I feel like I moved so much stuff now that it's... Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was a tough time period, but Drew's actually been at the top. But Perfect was very upper mid card in a stacked time period. Bam Bam just didn't. But he was at the top of Japan. Yeah, I'll go with that. Pedro Morales, easily a draw. I mean, brought people in droves to MSG when he was a champion. In fact, I think he might actually have to go to Superstar. Randy Orton, I mean, has proved it for so long. Someone you can build a feud around. Yeah, he's superstar status. Macho Man. Second only to perhaps the biggest star in pro wrestling, is an absolute legend. Golly, this is tough. My God, draw and superstar. I'm looking at it. I'm like, and I have guys I like more or less in this. I'm trying to be. Fuck. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. All right, almost done. An hour in. Raven was over in ECW, but how does that equate on a national stage? I think it gives you someone who's inconsistent. You can use him to an extent, but you cannot fully rely on. Roman Reigns, definitely someone they could rely on. Easily above mid-carder into over, near the top of over. In fact, I think we got ourselves a draw, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's maybe easier to use than Goldberg. I think he might pop bigger numbers with Goldberg, but not, over the course of their... I don't know what I'm saying. I put him over Goldberg. Rey Mysterio, drawing-wise, definitely tough. I can't tell you because he was always on rosters and cards that were full of just spectacular players. I think if you have a match with him, it's bound to draw, especially in his prime. It's the most exciting match, but what makes it very difficult with him is in AAA, I don't even know in AAA, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, but are the matches that we look upon as the most and best technical matches, ones that were at the top of big gates and big cards. That's where it is very difficult, right? If you're trying to be objective, it's like, oh yeah, looking back, what he did in the ring he was one of the best professional wrestlers of all time in the actual ring. Then you try to figure out, okay, how much did he actually draw? And it becomes a very tough argument to make. But he was someone who could be consistently used as an in-ring performer because you wanted him to be in the ring as often as absolutely possible. So he's a step above these guys. Tremendous longevity and ability to come back to the WWE, but WCW seemed underutilized. Even in the WWE seemed underutilized. Was never the figurehead, although he drew a lot of kid fans to SmackDown back in the 2000s for sure. Rhino, I think we go to inconsistent with him. Definitely a cool gimmick, looks badass as all hell. Matt Riddle, same, inconsistent. Don't know what to expect with him. Ron Simmons, I think, is someone you could... He has the WCW heavyweight title. He was a good tag teamer. I think he's just another guy that I'm not quite... I mean, he's a tremendous athlete, someone I wouldn't mind using at all. But I'm not sure how much of a draw he was. Rich Holland, don't know. There's going to be some controversy for sure. Scott, where did I put Dax? I'm not sure where I put Dax. Maybe put him in the mid card or Dash. There we go. Just trying to get Shannon Moore, guy who got punked out by Punk. Simon Gotch, sorry. All right, we're back to it. Trevor Murdoch, another guy I can put in jobber territory. Trent Seven, I either have to put, I got to put who? I've heard of him. Ted DiBiase Jr. I'm going to put in the jobber. Boogeyman, jobber. Tyler Breeze, sorry. Tyson Kidd, sorry. Respect for them. Brian Kendrick, apologies. Tatanka, got to put into inconsistent. He's got a gimmick that could be interesting to work with. Snitsky, maybe the same. Victor. Vladimir Kolov or Kozlov. Spike, someone we're going to want to use in the undercard a lot. It's my gosh. Is taking some brutal bumps for sure. Semi-interesting character, I guess, that maybe you want to use. I mean, I would put him in jobber. I mean, objectively, maybe you could make the argument. Rikishi, I think there's an argument to be made. Jeez, I don't. This is where things get really difficult. Yeah, that feels about right. Road Dogg, I gotta find. Badass Billy Gunn. Just becoming ever increasingly difficult as all the tiers are being filled to the brim. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. There we go. Now, frankly, I would use, him maybe a little bit more in singles than Billy Gunn, but it is what it is. Scotty Too Hottie, sorry. I gotta job you out. Shad, that is the member with JTG. There you go. Robert Conway, sorry. You go with... Where did I put... Yes. Did I put Adam Cole too high? No, that feels okay. Ryback, inconsistent, has the look of the Warrior, but not the character of the Warrior, but probably the in-ring skills of the Warrior. So, Stevie Richards, another guy, probably going to put inconsistent. Shane McMahon, interesting character, can do some crazy stuff. Maybe bottom of mid-card. Test, we got to put him inconsistent. Has the look again, but Zack Ryder, inconsistent. Typhoon. inconsistent. I don't know who this guy is at all. Xavier Woods. Get to put him with Big E. Not familiar with him. William Regal, I think, is maybe textbook inconsistent. Where he shows an incredible peak, and drugs have hurt what he could have been. Val Venus inconsistent, has character, has in-ring prowess. Sheamus. You go mid-card with him. Although I don't know. It's so tough with him, honestly. But staying power. Heath Slater is always a bit of a job guy, isn't it? Celosico, I would use him now. I would like to use him. But it's very hard to say what, because this is a time period where when he started to come up, I was not watching very much. Ty Dillinger, I just, no. Top Dollar, no, don't know who that is. Tucker Knight, don't know who that is. Tyler Bate, again, I've heard of him, not seen his matches. Sin Cara was big, if I'm thinking of the right guy, I think he won Wrestler of the Year while wrestling in Mexico, and then just became a disaster in the WWE. So I guess it depends which version you get. Tajiri, again, really good in-ring. Interesting enough gimmick to be used inconsistently. TJ Perkins. Tommaso Ciampa, I think, is somebody who could and should be used. Yeah, that feels more. This feels more accurate now. Okay, anyone else? Wade Barrett. Got bad news for ya. Could have had it with NXT, but 'twas for naught. Okay, now I think we only have guys that I am very familiar with. So this will be interesting. Ric Flair, bona fide top guy. Absolute legend. Above Cena, in my opinion. It's an inexact science. Should be said in the same breath as these guys. Yes. That feels close to correct. Rick Rude, tremendous. No doubt about it. Easily a mid-card guy into over territory, in my opinion. Yeah, that feels right. That feels nice. Yep, that's good. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, I mean, clearly was able to have tremendous matches, compelling storylines. He's right up there in that top mix, that over. Where it's like those guys who were legitimate IC title contenders during that boom period really feel as though they should be there. Batista, actually going to bring you down a notch right there. RVD, this one's tough, man. Great in ECW. Was on the precipice of a major draw in WWE. I think he's a top mid-card guy. Kind of in the same ilk of Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Roddy Piper. Deserves to be right in the mix-up with these guys. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes. Can be the main guy in a compelling storyline. Sell it. They are the straw that stirs the drink, for sure. Seth freaking Rollins, I think he... is right up there with those guys. Yep. Rusev, not incredibly impressed with much. I think he's just lacking something. Goes right into inconsistent. Sabu, interesting, man. Brings hardcore nature like no one else. And I think that could be used in the mid-card. Sami Zayn, consistent player. It's proven that he's versatile. Dolph is going to drop down a notch. Right there. As with Dean. That feels about right. Samoa Joe. Tremendous in TNA. Put him over. Scott Hall. Probably going to give him some Kevin Nash treatment, perhaps. Where the hell did I put Nash? Now I've literally lost everything. Okay, there we go. Scott Hall. Try to find Diesel. I have no idea. Okay, I see him now. Yep, right and over. Although I give him just a few notches ahead because of his in-ring work. Scott Steiner. I think he top guy in WCW, but in the waning years was a tremendous tag wrestler. Certainly over. Feels about right. Sergeant Slaughter, interesting. I don't know much about what he did in the territories, but I know he was over there. Was able to main event a WrestleMania. Although it didn't go well, that can't be blamed upon him. Do you think you have to put him in over as well? Shawn Michaels, my goodness. Was a top guy in the mid-90s as well. I think you got to give him Bret Hart treatment. Although Could maybe even argue that because of what he did afterwards, he might deserve to be a little bit higher. I don't know. Yeah, that feels... Because I think it's all very... He was the top guy a little bit before Shawn. Shawn, obviously, after Brett. That now feels more accurate. Shelton Benjamin. I think, based upon what I've heard from what he has done in the Hurt Syndicate, maybe deserves to be a little bit higher into the mid-card. Shinsuke, definitely his resume in New Japan more impressive than WWE, but still very impressive in WWE. Now Steve Austin, I don't know if anyone's flame burned quite as bright as Austin's did when he was the main guy, to where he might be 1B, although I do think there is a separation because of what I said about Hogan having fingerprints on 2 boom periods. Sting was a solid, consistent draw, and then he became Crow, and that built to like a must-see main event. Where I feel like he's right in the middle of draw. Psycho Sid, someone who was always bouncing place to place, but is very useful as a monster heel. Where he would be one of my... And that feels about right. Taz in ECW, really over. And then got midget treatment in WWE/WWF. I think he's a solid mid-carder to have on the roster. Ted DiBiase in terms of what he did in the territories, and then also continued success in the WWE. I think he is right there in over territory. Right at the top of it. The Iron Sheik was the guy, transitional champion though, and then had some darker years. I think would be a solid mid-carder though. The Rock, even though it was always felt like, you were only get a taste of him, he's, I think, right with Dusty Rhodes in terms of iconic WWE wrestler. Sandman, I think, is inconsistent, has character, but lacks in-ring proficiency. Same with Tommy Dreamer. I think he has more to give in-ring, but where you gain some in one avenue, you lose some in the other. Tito Santana, I don't know a ton about him, but he was always a solid mid-carder. Yes. Triple H was on top for so long to where I think you have to say that he is over for sure. Putting him above the man who trained him, above Scott Hall, above Hardy. Right there. Umaga, great monster heel, I think. right there in the mix. Undertaker, tremendous draw. Especially as the streak became more and more of a thing where his match was one of the events to see at WrestleMania, and a huge, just a lot of longevity in that career. Vader, probably going to go in a similar spot, though I am incredibly biased towards Vader. I really think so, just because of what he did in Japan. And just like in a 10-year stretch, when given opportunities that weren't soiled, really made the most of it. He was tremendous. Vince McMahon, I mean, yeah, for not just based on character alone, was able to draw. The Ultimate Warrior definitely had drawing power, along with Yokozuna. So we're going to move these guys up in unison. They definitely both made money in their primes. No doubt about that. They were over. Yokozuna, once he lost mobility, that became a huge issue. Warrior, never a great worker, but made money. No doubt about that. And then it began to fall off because of the in-ring work. But then X-Pac, I think... I don't know. That feels about right. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below. This was definitely very tough. I'm more confident in these two. I mean, and there's always an argument to be made that it's like, well, these guys should be an icon, or Savage should be an icon. CM Punk, you know, what have you. Lawler, for what he did in Memphis, is one of the top territory draws. Pedro, you know, you could always argue, okay, some of these guys deserve to go up a notch. And I get that. It does make this very painstaking, to be quite honest. But it was an interesting list to make nonetheless. Hope you enjoy. Hope you subscribe. Let your thoughts be known below, and I will catch you all on Flippity Floop. Bye, y'all.